I once picked a purple flower from my grandfather's garden, and I remember getting in trouble for it. The flower I picked wasn't any ordinary flower. It was going to be an eggplant, but I didn't know that at the time. I was about 4 or 5 years old, and I saw a pretty flower and picked it to give to my mom. I hadn't realized that I had disturbed the plant and prevented a possible harvest. Welcome to Casba Obscura, a look at life in the dark and upside down. I'll admit, even now, I don't have such a green thumb. I overwater or underwater or forget to sometimes care for my plants. A few months ago, I tried out the rice experiment coined by Dr. Emoto. The experiment consisted of putting cooked rice into 3 separate containers. One is labeled as I love you, one says I hate you, and the last one has no label. You're supposed to say only kind things to the first one, say negative things to the second, and completely ignore the last. If all goes right, the neglected rice should grow the moldiest, and the others should stay quite fresh. I really did try to do the experiment right, but a few weeks later, I ended up throwing out 3 moldy cups of rice because I had unintentionally ignored all 3. I guess you can say that the experiment kind of did work because it showed that neglecting something, whether a person, a problem, or a cup of rice, only makes them worse in the long run. But I guess a part of me just gave up on the experiment and that's why it failed. I didn't see it through, so it didn't produce any valid results. Safe to say I won't be trying it again because I don't want to waste any other food. Plus, I think I got the lesson I needed already. And it was more than just the benefits of positive affirmations. It was a lesson on patience. The frenzy of planting seeds and scattering ideas all over a page is one thing, but the discipline and consistency to follow through, to tend to an idea, but not rush or intervene, is truly a skill worth mastering. There are times where we should be kneading the dough, and there are times where we need to let the dough rest. If we don't allow the processes to take place, the product inevitably suffers. There's a poem by Naomi Long Madgett that goes, I wouldn't coax the plant if I were you. Such watchful nursing may do it harm. Let the soil rest from so much digging and wait until it's dry before you water it. The leaf's inclined to find its own direction. Give it a chance to seek the sunlight for itself. Much growth is stunted by too careful prodding, too eager tenderness. The things we love, we have to learn to leave alone. It's a beautiful expression about love and acceptance, about patience, and about timing. It's about understanding the nature of things and how it's important to let our plants and ideas sprout and blossom when they're ready. There has to be a fine balance between urgency and stillness. You cannot open an oven while you're baking a soufflé. A time to reap and a time to sow. Good things come to those who wait. Slow process brings big results. While patience is associated with wisdom, knowing, and faith, impatience is connected to eagerness, frustration, disappointment, anxiety, and even lack. And while eagerness can sometimes spark action, it can be seen as premature and impulsive. And you wouldn't want to prevent something from reaching its full potential by interrupting the growing process. If you planted tomato seeds in the richest soil, watered them and placed them in an ideal spot with the perfect sunlight, you wouldn't dig them up 10 minutes later to see if they've become tomatoes yet. That's the patience of a farmer. Every day finding harmony with nature and practicing both tending and allowing. On the opposite side of this are the famous sayings, the early bird gets the worm, or strike while the iron is hot, that have the energy of eagerness and urgency. But shouting at an acorn to grow won't make it a mighty oak any faster. So although it may feel good to be the first one in line, the longer you're there, the more you'll see, learn, and observe. Sometimes you'll meet a stranger in line who leaves you with some words of wisdom that'll change your life. Instead of looking at the distance between you and your desire or what you ultimately want as distant or far away, look at it as being closer than you ever were before. Think of the side mirrors of a car that say objects in mirror are closer than they appear. If you know something is for you and you have the faith and patience to be still, then you don't have to overexert or overextend yourself. It'll come to you somehow. Not magically, not instantly, but at some point, hopefully, just hopefully it catches up with you and rides with you in the same lane. When running a race, it wouldn't be so helpful to think of how much you have left or how far you are from the finish line, but rather how many miles have you already completed and how much closer to the end you actually are. Clarissa Pinkola Estes said, "We have the ability to infuse energy and strengthen life and stand out of the way of what dies." A few weeks ago, I received some beautiful flowers for my birthday. I know some people have told me they don't like getting flowers because they end up dying, but to me, that's the most absurd thing. So you can't enjoy the flowers presently because you're too worried about them dying? It makes no sense. Impermanence is a real thing. And if we get caught up with trying to preserve things that are meant to rot, we are preventing a natural life death life cycle, essentially stopping the life that can happen even after death. Not letting go or hanging on tightly to things does us no good. Since then, I have rearranged the bouquet 2 more times to remove the dried leaves and trim the stems so that the last closed buds could blossom. But eventually, I know I'll throw them away. Fake flowers could never compare to the experience of watching the real petals and leaves slowly brown, wither, and dry out. There's a funny scene in Dennis the Menace where Mr. Wilson has a whole bunch of guests seated in his backyard, and they're all patiently waiting for the special 40-year orchid to bloom. But just as it starts to open, Dennis barges in and interrupts the scene, causing Mr. Wilson to miss the once-in-a-lifetime experience. This is a funny scene because the two characters are playing on their constant cat and mouse dynamic, but I really think it shows that just as you can wait for something patiently for years, it could be over and gone in seconds. The thing about soufflés is they need to be served immediately once they're out of the oven, or else they'll quickly begin to deflate. Nothing lasts forever. This is a reality that many of us find difficult to face. We have the words in our language such as permanent, immortal, everlasting, nonstop, and always. We build our world with the strongest materials we can get our hands on. We build monuments to last through centuries. We use anti-aging cream. We photograph our loved ones. How do we know when things are ready? Why wait if we can only have it for a short while? Because we like to have our souffle and eat it too. We like a harvest. We need a harvest. That's why farmers do what they do. That's why they patiently wait after doing their hard work to let the sun and water and plants do their thing, so they can produce buds, flowers, and fruits, so we can eat. But even the harvest doesn't last forever. There will come a time to reap what has been sown, and eventually the time will come to prepare for the next planting season. Both of my grandfathers tended to gardens in their backyards all their lives, and I remember after they pruned and watered the leaves and stalks, they would step back to just watch. They knew they'd have to wait a little longer, but they knew it was being done. They were patient. There's a funny story about the salad one of my grandfather grows, about how it lasts forever. It never runs out. Every dinner with my grandparents, there would be this huge heavy bowl that would come out right after the meat course. In the bowl was a giant green salad, sometimes with tomatoes, but always with vinegar. It would get passed around and my grandmother would say, "This is from the backyard." A couple of dinners in a row, she began saying, "This is the last of it, and there's no more salad after this." My family began to joke around about what we were going to do with this salad shortage crisis we had on our hands, but the salad kept coming. More dinners after that, we were still eating salad from the backyard out of this big bowl. At one point, one of us asked, "How could this be the last of it if you said that last time?" And my grandmother just smiled. I still don't really know how she did it or what was going on, but it seemed just funny that this salad was everlasting. The truth is, my grandmother freezes a lot of veggies that they pick from their garden. I wish one day I could actually be good at keeping plants alive. Just having the one little plant in my home right now is bringing so much life to the space, but I still don't know if it needs water or if it's good. I keep poking the soil with my finger to check if it's still damp. I don't think I'm as patient as people say I am. Everyone who knows me at some point or another has told me that I have so much patience. It's not a compliment and I don't take it as one. They usually say it with some impressed expression, but it's always in their tone of voice that I can tell what they really mean. I am too tolerant of things they wouldn't ever dare give a second chance. I am too tolerant. I know this. The patience they see is not the kind a Buddhist monk hones after years of solitude and meditation. The patience they see is from years of saying yes when I really meant no. It's from smiling in uncomfortable situations with highly dysregulated people. It's from people pleasing and the plight of perfectionism bestowed upon me from my family tree. It's me trying to be nice when inside me, hot lava boils and bubbles. Sometimes I think I'm too impatient for tea. About tea, I do love it, the flavors, the idea of slowing down, getting to use my cute mugs and teacups, boiling water, dunking in the neatly folded little bag of aromatic flowers into the water, and watching it turn every color the leaves allow, and setting aside time to enjoy it. It's all very spiritual and nice. But I'll tell you how it really goes. I end up boiling water, making the tea, and forgetting about it. Of course, I want to drink the tea right away, but since it's so hot, I try to wait for the perfect temperature. And then I just let it get cold. Too cold. Abraham Hicks said, "Be ready to be ready." At first, it takes a second for the funny phrase to mean anything, but it's powerful once it clicks. It's like that episode of Seinfeld when Elaine's boss can't see the picture of the magic painting. It's hard to let go of rigid ways of thinking, but we should be ready for anything. Things don't always turn out the way that we have planned. Let things happen as they will. There's no telling what could be exactly the thing that could absolutely make a difference in your life or in your garden, for example. So you just have to do your part and trust the process. Trust that the rest will be completed. Estes also said, "Whatever can happen to a garden can happen to soul and psyche. Too much water, too little water, bugs, heat, storm, flood, invasion, miracles, dying back, coming back, boon, healing." What's important to remember is that all these things are okay. They are all equally okay. We need to accept that something like water, for example, can both heal and harm, is both powerful and destructive, but also calm and replenishing. Let's try to not stop the harvest from happening. Let life and all the parts of the life-death life cycle happen. We need decay to happen for fertile soil to exist so that the newly planted leaves can crack open and thrive. It's not an easy thing to do to wait. In the famous play Othello, it is said, "How poor are they who have not patience? What wound did ever heal but by degrees?" It is the small degrees. The temperature in the oven has to be set just right for anything to rise properly. I know you can't wait for your dessert to be done. I know you want to open the oven just to check, just to see if everything you've worked so hard for and are looking forward to so bad is going to turn out how you want it to go. But if you do this, you'll ruin it. And I think that's why they invented the little oven windows. So set a tomato timer and go do something else while you let your stuff cook. I'm sure you'll know when it's ready. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode. Let me know what you think about all of this. I'm going to go make some tea. Peace out.